Yeah.
Ready then.
Right. Oh, call it over.
And the flag.
I
What is the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready then.
Minutes are here. We have me.
It should be there. Under there, under their folder there. You get all your back. You should need a second paper.
Okay. Anybody have any comments about the minutes or?
Well, there's motion to accept, approve.
Well, I have.
Oh, sorry.
It's first, before comment, I would just procedurally recommend a second and then you can.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All set here.
Any discussion?
So I have one question. It said the council proposed a strategy to approach Buttermilk Falls owners. What this doesn't say is what the strategy is. And I don't remember what the strategy is.
I can respond to that. We were trying to figure out what might be the best way to preserve the look and, let's look accessibility of Buttermilk Falls, and it is currently for sale. It has been in the past. A community, the community watering hole for all the kids and families in the summertime, everybody used to go there to swim. And it's part of the piece across the street, it's piece across the street, the old pizza place, which is also said, but they're part of the same, part and parcel of the same. So I spoke with the real estate agent about that property, and currently it's not one of the dollar stores, not Dollar General, but Dollar.
On lots or
It's
odd lots.
Yeah.
Remember, we both.
And the agent said that they have a tentative bid on the place, but they weren't moving forward with the purchase. So they may just be holding on, you know, have a placeholder in there in case they want to buy it later, but they do have a bid on the property. I don't know what it was. And the agent suggested that we could approach the seller if we wanted with an ask if it could be divided so that it would be two pieces of property, and then we could do something with Buttermilk Falls, and Michael Albert suggested that it might be a conservancy purchase. So that's about as far as we got it, and so we have to be a couple steps away before we actually consider buying
It's
it.
a fairly small piece of property.
It is, I think it's maybe 2 acres, such. And it's the falls itself adjacent to the road, next to the Shawnee place, and then upstream a little bit. And when I was a kid, you could actually see the falls from 209. So it wasn't invisible as it is pretty much now. So if we, if we wanted, the thought was that it's such a beautiful eye candy.
Absolutely.
The people coming into 209 would say, oh, this is not just a chunky place, there's a beautiful falls there. And it could be it could represent the township in a nice way. If we put, welcome to Smithfield Township, whatever. But I'm not sure if it would go beyond that, because the accessibility to it would be very limited. Because there's no parking and you can't really have a swimming hole the way it was, so mostly probably just be something to look at from the road, because parking would be pretty much impossible. So it's kind of sitting in that.
Well, if you got the whole property, you can have the parking across the street and build a walkway over it.
Yes.
Something like that.
Right.
Or
possibly get an easement from, what do you call it, Wyndham people.
Yes, right.
On that resort, if they would cede some of their parking area, which is, they have a lot of parking and it's mostly empty, so.
Yeah,
That's a good suggestion.
yeah, very good suggestion.
It would be a shame to see it turned into, you said it wasn't Dollar General, it was what?
Odd lot.
On lots,
Yeah.
yeah. But the part of the piece.
Okay, you refreshed my memory, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes.
May I comment?
Should we go ahead and approve the minutes and then, okay,
Oh, we have. Sorry.
Probably, yeah, you could probably continue that discussion.
yes, we will continue the discussion. Okay. Is that okay with you? Did you get your, Okay.
Minutes.
all in favor of the, accepting the minutes? Aye. Any objections? No. Okay, now.
Say procedurally before a question is asked, the topic has to be introduced.
Yeah. We will now discuss
Robert's rules of order.
the Buttermilk Falls issue that came up when we were exploring our minutes. And is there a question?
Just a comment because I'll forget if I don't say it. I've been in that water recently with some young visiting kids and, there were other parents and kids there, catching fish and just, splashing around in the water. So right now it's used in the, in that nostalgic way that makes us all like, ooh, but if the township owned it, people wouldn't be able to go in it. And that's, I don't know that that's better.
But it's private property, right?
People go in all the time.
But it is private.
It is, but it's.
Because the owner would then be at risk depending
Right.
upon his insurance.
Mhm.
So I'm sure as the owner must not know that that's happening.
I thought there was times in broad daylight, and the odd lot are the ones who own it.
No, they're,
They own that pizza place, yes, the Shuckmans own that piece of property.
okay.
The Shuckmans own odd lot, and they own that
Oh,
property, they own
okay.
the old pizzeria,
Yes.
that's who owns it.
Well, then,
Well, then,
Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense.
it doesn't parse with what the agent told me. I spoke with
And
her,
unless they sold it,
yeah,
when that was last operating as a pizzeria,
maybe I'm mistaken, maybe it's all of us who owns it and they're selling it. But I spoke with the.
Correct.
It is that lot is currently for sale. I may have misunderstood him saying.
yeah,
I think that the
Yeah.
sale is pending to
Right.
the odd lots people, so they, it hasn't closed.
no, I'm telling you, the Shuckmans own that piece of property.
Who are the shipments again?
The Shuckmans are the people who own odd lot.
Okay,
It's
and
the
they own,
family that owns lot.
they own another
They own
store
that
up in
property.
Tannersville as well.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
so you're sure that they are the sellers, not just.
99.5%, yeah.
Well, that's not what the agent told me.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Anyway, so we have some confusion about that.
yeah,
So it is, if there are people swimming in there,
there are,
the owner is at risk.
I understand, of course.
And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that any kind of swimming facility is insurance nightmare.
Mhm.
So the chances of it being used by the public is slight to nil.
is there any chance odd lots, the people you mentioned, would, want to do a going to conservative? And, we would get the credit for doing it.
It's to split the property would cost, I don't know, many thousands of dollars just to split it.
But they would get
I understand,
money.
but then they would get money, so it would be we can certainly make an offer to the seller.
Well, particularly if they're connected with this area. They are connected with this area, they live here.
Yeah,
Well, it's worth a shot to at least, don't you think?
they're
At
old,
least,
they're out there.
We could approach the realtor again and ask about get contact information
Yeah.
from these people whoever the current owner actually is.
Mhm.
Whether or not it goes through, he would give us their contact, or he would tender whatever we
And
ask.
we just don't know until we pursue it another,
Another step,
take another step.
Well, I think you should pursue it, yes.
we shall.
All right,
I'll bring it right now.
And we all agree that it ought to be the two. Sure.
Yeah, well, I agree, please pursue it, I mean, I'd love to see that. be
Buttermilk
part
Falls
of
is
it.
gonna be like
Exactly, so that pursuing
or
means
the one behind that.
to the end of,
And
yeah,
and Shawnee Road. That's straight road, straight up the hill. And
That's Buttermilk Falls.
that's that lots for sale.
Which one?
That's Pleasant Falls itself.
so,
There's a lot of them, you say there's a lot of Buttermilk.
All lots is for sale. The falls itself is for sale.
That doesn't belong to,
so everybody can hear, okay?
I'm sorry.
that doesn't belong to Marion?
I'm not sure exactly who the owner is. Apparently there's some confusion who owns it.
Wyndham doesn't own it.
Wyndham doesn't.
The Shipmans might not
All
own
right,
the
I'll find out,
They
and I'll
definitely.
email everybody later with,
It's the same parcel.
I'll send you
Yeah,
that.
but
I have a map of the property,
Yeah,
it's in question, yeah, I have a property map, it shows all the lines and everything, so we just have to make.
You have the owner's name?
I have information at home, I don't remember exactly what it is, but Fred and I can contact the realtor again.
Yeah.
And he was very friendly, there's no reason why we can't take it one more step.
Right.
So Brett, you wanna make, Corey, you want me to?
I'll make a call.
Okay, we'll follow up on this, folks.
Well, I think that we should begin kind of hinting about the fact that we love to have it, the township. And it's a wonderful thing to have.
The gentlemen here have everything in there.
Well, what I don't know is whether that is the priority open space piece that we should recommend to the supervisors. Because, you know, you just take things as they come up. It sounds like a great thing, but without looking at the list and prioritizing it, you don't know that we're taking what we really should be taking to the supervisors.
Well,
And
there's an answer to that, I think. We're not taking it to the supervisors yet. We don't even know whether it's capable.
But here's the issue I have with the whole open space discussion. And it's what Michael said at the last meeting. He said the supervisors are not willing to spend the money that was approved at the last referendum,
I've heard him say that.
okay? So, anything we do on open space, anything we recommend, we're not gonna get anything done for years and years, because it's gotta be put on the ballot. It's gotta go be approved as a referendum, and then the supervisors have to decide to spend money. So to me, that is, for our efforts, I'd like to get some things done this year. For me, that's a lower priority, because we're not gonna get anything done this year on open space.
Well, get anything done doesn't mean you have to accomplish a thing. It means putting a plan, be a plan in place with some definite milestones or so forth. So getting it done doesn't mean you have to accomplish it all at
Well,
once. And in this environment that we're in, you don't accomplish anything all at once. I know from environmental issues before. I mean, you have to start somewhere and you have to find out who the stakeholders are. And, begin to do a little work on it. And I'm not opposed, I'm older than anybody on here, I'm sure, and I know I won't be around when Buttermilk Falls it becomes ours, but I just think it's it would be so wonderful to have it. It's a beautiful place, I love it.
Waterfalls were identified in the comprehensive plan as the priorities, so I think it is reasonable to make. To focus, there's also the Twin Falls too, and that I think is identified in the bubble map, so I think waterfalls are a very reasonable. Priority, if you put a list together, I can imagine waterfalls being in the top 3 as a feature that the public might want to consider preserving their current state. as opposed to them becoming privatized and. Right, you know what I mean, I think it's a reasonable pursuit, but you make very good points too, supervisors have, or at least Michael has publicly indicated that there may be some delay in this whole thing, so.
I heard Michael say that as well, and I kind of took it as a. Forget about it, I don't think it's not gonna happen anytime, but to your point, I still think we should recommend, if nothing else. As the body, EAC, that this could be presented as a priority at some point, whatever, just get it on record that we would.
And step one is YouTube.
Yes.
Right, and there's no harm in what we're doing, we're not spending a nickel, we're not even spending much time.
No, it's only a question of time and effort, and do you recommend this to the supervisors? To do when maybe there's something that would be better to recommend, and I don't know, until you have a list of open space and prioritize it. Which I guess is what that one list is, the Excel spreadsheet that you sent out.
Yeah, we can.
So at least that's a beginning.
Buttermilk Falls is worth keeping out of the hands of. It should be for everybody.
It's beautiful.
It is, it's been part of this area since it was
Way
founded.
back.
Way back before my daddy.
All the dinosaurs.
My deceased 92-year-old husband used to swim in it when he was 3 or 4 years old.
So if that is what the committee would want to recommend, that we propose to the supervisors. How do we go about?
Well, there's
Well, that's, we don't know
also a
yet.
piece that connects to that. Pretty sure it belongs to LTS.
Upstream.
Upstream of that, 17 acres. The
Is that upstream?
Marshall's Creek.
Yeah.
The whole Marshall's Creek,
Well, then you try to get all that, right?
A good idea.
the whole Marshall's Creek watershed was identified in the 2000, in the bowl map as a priority area, so upstream,
Yeah.
the falls itself, that whole segment.
When did LTS buy that?
They bought it around 2006, I believe it was, when they wanted to, had this idea that they were gonna build a secondary, Wall Street.
Yes, I knew that.
Okay, that never materialized.
Yeah, that relates to the central sewer, if I understand that correctly, it's in the Act 537. It was in that letter that went out, the Gilmore letter, I remember them referencing something about, is that the same thing you're referencing?
No.
Something back around 2008.
Yeah, that has to, yeah. They, well, that was later after they bought it.
Okay,
Is that on this list somewhere?
I'm just trying to remember, are you talking about that proposal to have something to do with Wall Street after the
Yeah, correct.
9/11 attacks?
Yeah, it was they bought 17 acres, they were, speculating that they were going to, and they actually brought people in to, look at the site, and they seriously were thinking about that after.
Well, I've heard of
After
that.
September 11th, they wanted to have a backup plan, but we're in the 21st century, and, everything is done via Wi-Fi somewhere or another, so.
Interesting. And after the 2008, that idea evaporated by
Yeah.
2010.
Okay, I want us to begin to bring this discussion to a close and discuss and agree on what we agreed to do. We know for sure that these two are gonna go keep, I started saying looking around, that's not good. That's keep looking at that property. And I think we all have to think about it, it is.
You have to go to the
Important.
order of the deed office.
So do we need
One thing I'd like
any
to,
other discussions?
yeah, I'd like to, one thing that I want to recommend to Brett and.
What's his name?
Ken, okay. You should go down to the recorder of deeds. And pull up the deeds to that property. Okay, and actually look at the actual map that's there the recorder of deeds. You actually, what you do is, then you walk down, a couple of doors down, you talk to the tax assessor. And she'll walking thing. Well, because you can actually, you can still walk in some of these buildings there. So you go down to the recorder of deeds, and then you can walk down to the tax assessor, and you can get a tax map. And they have the actual map you want to use.
Sounds like a real estate professional.
I doubt. So, that's the best way to do that. This way you find out actually who owns the property, and then you can see the chain.
Yeah.
You can see the chain of ownership on that property. Maybe that property hasn't changed ownership. You don't know.
Shouldn't we also look at that 17 acres
Yeah.
Yep,
that LTS
Exactly.
at the same
Yeah.
time?
To
exactly.
that, end, I'll call Bob Westlow.
Because that would be, if you can put all that together,
Yeah.
then you would have a gateway focus as people come in to
Right.
Smithfield Township, and you'd have room for parking, and you could have a picnic area. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of ideas as to what could be done,
That's a
17 or 18 acres rather than just one or
because
two.
that whole watershed would be saved.
Yeah.
With the falls. I don't know, the property below that where the inn is at.
Well,
Where they renovated that old inn, where that just runs right down there.
what that used to be Silver Lake. Just below Buttermilk Falls, and it was where everybody in the community used to go get their ice. It was an ice thing, and there's people were fishing there, and it was a lake. I don't think it's been maintained as a lake, but it was called Silver Lake. And it was all the way down to the mill, down a little farther down, below the Chinese tea house there's mill, there's dam. And that was the southern terminus of Silver Lake.
It's not a lake now, right?
No, I think it's just a widened stream at this point, but it was a full lake.
Okay, we're on the topic of old business, which is open space directions. We have a direction for one open space piece. Is there anything else, Eric, that you want us to talk about specifically in this topic?
It sounds like based on this discussion that the council is kind of agreeing that the Marshall Street watershed
Yes.
is a priority.
Priority. Yep.
Based, and that is consistent with previous discussions as well, so. And I understand that might have also been the case in the 2002 plan, the Eastern Monroe plan, and so part of the documents Michael sent out. I didn't distribute to everybody because a lot of the documents were the same things you've already seen, like the open space priorities list, the bubble map, things like that, but there were a couple nuggets in there that I thought really good. One of them you have in your board packet, which is a list sent over from PHLT. Which has a list of all these properties by acre and by owner at the time. This is several years old. Correct, yeah, it's this document here. It should be the second one in your packet.
What's PHL?
The Pocono Heritage Land Trust. So Michael got to get Pat and Pat got together with PHLT, and this was a really good document that I think really, and I like the fact that they sum it by acreage in descending order, or actually more or less in descending order, not quite, but. If you recall, I previously mentioned that according to some experts in the field, if it's under 10 acres, then it's challenge. Unless it's a special feature like a waterfall, that is the exception to the rule. Unless it has like there's other features in the township. Where it's under 10 acres, but it's such an important cultural thing that's.
Now, tell me again the heading for this list.
This is. The progress list. Based on all those open space meetings they were having when Louise Trout was coming here, this is every month they kept making progress. And you can see the notes on the right hand side. So like, for example, there's this one owned by Russell Scott, and it's noted as a golf course with lots of buildings, and there's another one. Where, there was a recycling center on it, Wrestling Falls Road, so these are sort of working notes of all the work that they've done. It's sort of a way that Mitch had in a previous meeting kind of alluded to the fact that we shouldn't like try to reinvent the wheel. This is sort of like all that work summed up in one Excel sheet, so at least you have, some history here.
Well, so
What's the date on it?
Buttermilk Falls and this watershed area on here?
That's what I was looking for when you guys were talking, but you know, the property owner may change hands, it's, you know, this is listed by property owner. But there's also that account, you see where it says ID and account? I think the account is related to the parcel ID regardless of owner. So I can take a look.
That's right, that's the parcel ID.
So I can take a look at that account and reference it to Marshall's.
What's the date on this, Alex?
I don't have the date on it, but it's at least 4 years old.
Okay.
So that's one of the other one's 2002 open space.
So in other words, this needs to be updated.
This is currently as updated as it is, and it could be further updated based on the whole goal is to take the previous, in my opinion, and you can either agree or disagree with me, but why reinvent the wheel? Take the work that they accomplished and start from here
Yeah.
and move forward as opposed to starting from scratch. So this kind of goes back to what Mitch was saying. This is a list that you have in hand of priorities that townships and the residents are already agreed on. And so it puts you in a pretty comfortable position moving forward and having this information, in my opinion. And so and then there was the 2002 open space plan, which I thought was phenomenal. It's definitely worth a read. It's currently
That's the one that's in the,
forms and documents, which is gonna find a new home soon. I'm working with the township on finding a new home for it, but it has some really good information on areas that should be prioritized. So
What your center, Alex?
2002, they put together an Eastern Monroe, and it's not just Smithfield, but it's
Right,
a lot of good information on there. And I browsed it, and it looks like Marshall's Creek watershed was identified even back then as a priority area. So discussion's been going on for at least 20 years.
Marshall's Falls.
The Marshall's Creek watershed as a priority area.
That's
So-
here.
And yeah, the Marshall's Creek watershed, so that was me responding to Pat. And it's also me kind of following up with the council a little bit on the action items, because if you recall, I sent an email out, and one of the actions was, I will discuss this with Michael and send out an email link. And in lieu of that, I'm just gonna send a couple of documents to everybody. And then we agreed that Brett and Ken would exchange contact information and work together on the Buttermilk Falls, which you've done. So. I don't think I have anything else to talk about on this particular thing.
so my question would be, since one of the charges that we have is to put together an open space list, how do we update that and get it to the point where we think it's comprehensive? And I would certainly take this list and I would start adding a lot of columns to it to make it more comprehensive so that there's more information here. But this is a good start, but the question is, how do we accomplish in the next few months an updated comprehensive list of open space?
And are you the one did you volunteer for this?
Not that, but my proposal is we need to set up subcommittees and we need to have one
No,
person
I agree.
that is the head of the subcommittee. And we need to reach out to people in the community to participate on those subcommittees. Because I don't think that 5 or 6 of us can do it all. And then as we have meetings, we get an update report as to where it stands. I mean, I suggested several different subcommittees based upon the charter that we were given. Yeah. And that really
Well,
came from what we talked about very briefly at the last meeting.
I'd like to put a little meat on the bones here, though. What do you expect? What is the product that you expect?
The product that I would expect for open space is an expanded list like this. And we could all have input on what we would want to know about these properties.
So it's not just the list, it's why they're on the list?
Well, I don't know at this point, I mean. All we see here is a
Well,
list.
don't we have some files on this? Didn't she send us some of the files, the working files?
This is one of the more important documents from that we didn't previously.
But there weren't any individual discussion notes.
But there are in the minutes. I believe that was sent out to everybody a couple of meetings ago. If you recall, I put it
That
up
was a
on the
long
screen.
list
Yeah.
of different,
There's that context that can be extracted from the minutes and incorporated into this, as per what Mitch is saying, another column that just has like a summary of the conversation as to. So, does that answer your question?
I mean, I would think that the right person to head a subcommittee for this would be Ken or Brett, because they're right in the middle of it already.
Can
Just to throw all in here, you guys.
That's fine.
Yeah, we're okay with that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm curious, where would we pull additional information from?
Yeah.
Well, you have some.
The minutes, I'd be happy, I'd be happy to.
Well, we're gonna start from scratch. We
We're not-
follow what Jim's just said.
Yeah, we're not gonna
James
start
just
from
said.
scratch, though.
And you go pull the deeds and you look for every big chunk of property that is within Smithfield Township, pick an acreage to as a cutoff range. And then you list those and then you look at where they are and give them some kind of priority rank. I mean, that gets into the detail of committee work.
No disagreement.
Well,
Do you want to take it on? You two could be co-chairs and that would be
Yeah.
easier, I think.
and then, we can work with you, Alex, in terms of identifying, if you want to pull items out of the minutes, try to help organize that. We do want you to remain happy.
Well, if we're going to like update a spreadsheet, who's gonna do that?
Oh, you guys,
Messing with a
oh,
spreadsheet.
you guys talented in Excel?
I know a little bit about it.
It's been a while, but I've used it before, yeah.
We can do that.
I mean, if it was me, I would start an Excel spreadsheet. I would put it into, I would say Google Docs or Dropbox. I don't know what we have access to.
Yeah, the Excel, so the great thing is this exists in Excel, and it's
Yeah.
merely a matter of adding the context of what this into
Right.
this, and it's something that.
But where is that so that
This
people
was
that go
actually-
in and work on it?
So to answer your question, this was, it was like an Excel sheet attached to the email that everyone got, so you all have that Excel sheet.
Right, that's a terrible way to work, excuse me, it's a terrible way to work on it. What you wanna do is you wanna have that document reside in Google Docs
Yeah.
or in Dropbox. So that you can go into it, there's access that you have to be given access to the folders.
Mhm.
And then you can go in and you can make changes. Any of us could then look at it. If we have questions, we can mark questions on it. So that the whole thing can come together during the course of time between meetings. Because if we only meet for a couple hours once a month and we try to do everything here, it's just not gonna happen.
So Mitch, we have SharePoint in the township, so I can add all of you, I can upload this in and add all of you as editors to that document, so everyone can see everyone else's work. We've been doing that with another committee in the township.
Right.
And that would, I think, address your comments. And then I can get together with the committee, once you have an update. And then we can, and in the meantime, I can try and add some of the context that we discussed in this, that's something I could.
So we can start with this as our basic raw
Yes.
file and build on this, and that can happen anytime soon, right?
Yeah.
Well,
There's two properties on Mount Nebo. Right behind, our development.
Right behind Summers.
Yeah.
Right,
At Carly Ford, we have that little waterfall.
yeah,
Okay, and I did a market analysis of the owner. Couple of years ago.
how many acres?
One is 20,
How much?
20,
20.
and he was looking to get a price on it. But I think you just wanted.
Well, the nice thing about that is that could tie in directly to Mount Eagle Park.
Exactly, it's got that nice little waterfall,
Right.
it's got. It has an underground stream that runs
Is
through.
that on the list?
That's what I was, is it on this list?
I don't know if it is, I think it is.
It's not, is it directly adjacent to Mount Eagle Park? Is it directly?
No,
not
it's down by
adjacent.
Rainbow Mountain.
Okay, well. Just send that into the committee, send that out, and then we can add it to this list if it's not already there. But it sounds like it checks. There's certain priorities when you're looking at open space, like does it have the presence of fresh water? Does it have a waterfall? Yeah, as soon as you say the word waterfall, it immediately elevates it. Acreage minimum, you said 20, that checks
There's an
that box.
underground stream that feeds that fall,
Okay,
that comes down, and there's another one on the property itself further in.
The waterfall is on the 20 acres.
Yeah, no, it's on the smaller part.
Okay.
Okay, because they're two, he bought both of them there, and what's nice is they're both, Act 319,
No, what?
Act 319.
this.
What's that?
What's that?
So that's, to conserve the property, it's, the special tax, code. So it lessens because it's to conserve. It's not to build on, it's just to conserve the property.
So I can answer that question as
There
well.
we go.
In addition to what you said, it's, I believe you're referencing the clean green, which is.
Yeah,
a tax
exactly.
Statement of some sort, but
Yep.
it doesn't necessarily protect property. When that property is sold, if someone wants to do something, they have to, you know, they can remove it and build on it anyway.
It's hard to get. From what I read, it's hard, once it goes on there, it's hard to remove.
It's,
It can be done, but it's like a little
I thought it was candy.
octopus grip on the property.
yeah, my understanding is you just have to pay back the tax.
Yeah, that's the problem, it's a financial.
It's
burden.
just a matter of, you know, that's, I don't
I think
think
anybody,
anybody.
that's, and especially if you're gonna sell it, you're gonna wind up literally a big tax bill.
It will,
Trigger.
yeah, it's a little bit of an obstacle. But I do know that. There are certain entities who have attempted to say, oh, look, it's clean and green, so it's protected, and I just wanna. Dispel that argument as being not necessarily the case. It's not protected, it just means that there's a little bit of a hurdle you have to jump through to develop it, if you so wish to.
It's, from what I read, I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think there's a little bit more tied into that,
It's interesting. I was thinking about
act
that today.
that makes it difficult to remove it. Because once it's locked in there, it's very hard to get rid of, from what I heard. From what I read,
Yeah, we may have a little bit of a disagreement going on, and that's.
I don't disagree with you, Alex.
But it's, I am also not fluent in that act. I can say, and I can look into it and get back to all you guys to clarify it.
I can pop it up here.
It comes up a lot in these sorts of discussions, though, I would say, so this is a very reasonable and perfectly understandable thing to discuss.
I think we need to, understand it.
Yeah, and I think it would be probably more appropriate for me to send an informational email to everybody as opposed to try to, because I don't wanna speculate, because I'm not within it. So they already speculated enough.
Owner who changes the use of the land is responsible for the rollback taxes for the entire property up to 7 years after separation. What is 319? 10-acre minimum for 2,000 gross the agricultural income. Only land assessment is affected, land assessment is based on the agricultural use. Value of the land according to the productivity of the soil. Act 319 assessment remains on property perpetuity until a change in use occurs or owner requests a voluntary breach, at which point the land cannot be re-enrolled in the program by the same owner. One may include more than one deed parcel under the application. Parcel must be held in common ownership and must be contiguous. The entire tax parcel must be enrolled in the program, no exclusions of any portion from any tax parcel are permitted, owners are permitted to divide compensation. For the involved property. You want me to,
No.
you want me to, send it to you?
Yeah, I think we probably discussed that topic.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we need a motion to appoint co-chairs to
Well,
develop
I
this
don't-
open space list, or how do we do that?
well, I think we do, I guess. We just wanna do one at a time, so we're gonna do this one now.
Since we talked about it, I just do this one. And
Okay.
open space is one of the priorities that we know the supervisors.
I nominate Brett and Ken.
Second,
Are you okay, Ken?
Sure, I'm open.
we have a comment,
I was in the
Yeah,
meeting. and
About open space,
in Anchorage.
my comment is that
Getting
since
to
the referendum for open space was passed 9 years ago, and the reason why Michael Albert said they probably wouldn't allocate any money is because there was only 1 year left on it. Would one of the goals be to get the referendum back on the ballot in 2025? Because if you're not gonna have any money, then you're really not talking about, the whole conversation is pointless.
Yes. Yeah, that's the point that was discussed a little bit last month.
Yeah.
Right.
The property values have increased dramatically.
But still, if you're not gonna, you gotta get the money allocated.
How much money was allocated 9 years ago, do we know?
well, it's a record, I can't remember
Yeah.
what it is.
I don't
It's
know.
2 million,
What,
2 million.
2 million?
2 million? Yeah, that's not gonna be enough.
And so I,
Well, that's an easy recommendation, from my point of view, we should recommend that be done. That's a good suggestion.
yeah, I don't know who does it. I don't know how that happens.
We would just have to recommend it to the supervisors and they have to figure out.
2, 3 parcels can wind up
Yes, you have.
going through that.
But,
Dave was commenting.
I'm saying that 2 million, 2, 3, 4 properties, you're gonna go through that each.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the open space initiative progress subcommittee, progress list. Subcommittee, is that what we're calling?
The way that it reads
um,
in ordinance 179,
Yeah, let's word the motion. I agree with word the motion consistent with the ordinance. Try to take.
Okay.
let me just.
Who's accomplishing this? You're working on this,
no, these two,
you're doing this?
We're gonna get access to it and work towards improving it. Bringing it further up to date.
I hope I brought the whole ordinance. Here it is. One thing it says specifically is keep an index of all open space areas. Which is what this was to the start of. The other things that it says is to advise the board of supervisors as to the acquisition of property.
Does it make sense to call it open space list update subcommittee?
I think that's, that property that we're talking about on Buttermilk Falls and, Seven Bridge Road, I believe that's the Seven Bridge LLC.
Does that make sense though for a name?
what about inventory, because you're gonna look at this,
Open space in list inventory. So,
or just
That
open,
would be great.
open space inventory committee, subcommittee.
Subcommittee.
open space inventory subcommittee.
Very good.
All right.
Would you like to appoint me to help with some of the administrative tasks for the committee?
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be happy to help. I'm here for.
We like you.
You have access to the tax information?
We all.
Yeah, we have the county GIS system.
Yeah.
That's some,
Okay.
they don't have a Yes, to answer your question in short, yes, we did.
Okay, so then you can punch in these tax IDs.
Yes, sir.
These are the alternative tax. So these are the tax map numbers here. No, these are the parcel numbers, the 16, starting with 16. So these are the parcel numbers.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
if you punch these in, you'll be able to get all the information.
but in interest of time, let's kind of close this off, okay? We have an action plan, most you guys are called in,
You're gonna probably want,
inventory.
Thank you.
did you vote on that motion?
Do we need to go?
Yes,
We need a motion and a second.
we have a motion.
We seconded it, right, together.
We seconded it together,
Okay.
yes.
Actually, it was a unanimous,
Any discussion,
Yes, made the motion.
any discussion?
And Alex is added as our, as part of this subcommittee, right? Is that-
Right, I will just add,
you
that
should,
this is not part of the motion, just.
right, discussion, they should, yeah, you need to get all this information, and then you can. When you get all this information, you'll be able to see actually if any of the properties have changed hands.
Right.
So,
Right, and we would have to update the new ownership, so.
Right.
That's what we're
and
gonna
this way, you're able to. Talk directly or mail directly the owners.
Well, I think that's another resource, you can, talk, ask him as you get further along, because it sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
But I would also empower the chairs in this particular case to reach out to anyone that might be interested in serving on this committee.
That's a
Because,
great suggestion.
because that gets other people in the township involved. The supervisors might know of someone that would want to serve on a
And
committee.
then we
Yeah,
can,
subcommittee.
and anybody in the audience like to.
It just helps get
participate.
more effort into things to make it easier.
Okay, that's part of the discussion,
Yes.
okay. And the co-chairs heard that, right?
Yes, I've heard enough.
All right, any other discussion? Let's vote on it then. All in favor? Opposed?
Does the amount.
Okay, moving right along slowly
So it's really,
is,
Oh,
these are on the wrong.
oh, okay.
were you gonna talk about, the sewage planning?
Well, before we do that, as part of this discussion on open space, when we look at this ordinance, thanks to being reminded, it's Gene, right?
Yes, you can, sure.
At the last meeting, you look at the ordinance, there are some other things that we are supposed to do. And one of those is to keep a list of environmentally sensitive areas. My approach would be to appoint a subcommittee to put that list together. And we already have a good starting point for gathering information from township. People who live
Is
here,
this the one you volunteered for?
I'll volunteer for that.
Okay.
The complaint form that Alex put together, I don't know, he said it was kind of like serendipity, right?
Kinda, yeah, it is a little bit like that.
I suggest that you see, if Eric, the other Eric wants to participate in that.
So the environmentally sensitive areas, I'll make a comment, so we have this map, so it's a lot different, the environmentally sensitive areas is a much different list than this,
Yes,
right? And that is a little bit problematic because that is a little bit more difficult to quantify because the environmentally sensitive areas don't necessarily adhere to property boundaries, so if you recall, the council had made a recommendation to supervisors on the official map update. I wonder if maybe that's a task that's fairly complex and maybe we could get some technical assistance from the planning commission, the county, if the supervisors engage them in that sense. Because
It's a good.
it is a little bit beyond, in my opinion, it's beyond our wheelhouse. If you start having, that requires GIS capabilities and it's gonna, I mean, the wetland, just take a look at the map. I mean, any of these hydric soil areas are environmentally sensitive. Any of those steep slopes are environmentally sensitive, any riparian corridor, those are all technically environmentally sensitive areas. But how do you take this map and quantify it? I think that's something that's, personally, I don't believe that we have the capacity in-house to do something like that. That's gonna be something we would probably need.
How do you define, environmental sensitive?
Well, that's the first.
Well, see, what the title of the map is, so that's the environmentally sensitive areas in Smithfield Township, and so all those metrics, wetlands, riparian zones,
Oh, I
slopes,
see.
floodplains, hydric soils, those are all environmentally sensitive areas by definition, so we have already accomplished step one of that task. Step two is to follow through and have, and maybe, I don't know, how to approach the supervisors about, taking up our recommendation and inviting the planning commission to do an informational session.
You're talking about Monroe County.
Correct.
Then.
The folks who put this together, I think, are the most appropriate folks to help us with this, and the supervisors have to engage those folks before we can move on. And so it's out of our hands at this point. In my opinion,
You wanna make somebody wanna move that we,
it's at the supervisory level at this point, and so.
that we, make a request of the supervisors?
Yeah, you could maybe have me draft up something simple and just.
I make a motion.
James makes the motion.
Dr. Jackson, prepare the appropriate, documents to address this to the supervisors in Monroe County.
Second?
Aye.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Any discussion? At least that gets you step one, Mitch.
We have someone in the audience, but,
Question.
yep,
I'm sorry, I'm lost. What did everybody just agree to? I'm sorry, I thought. this was
What
a
did we
question.
just agree to?
What did you just agree to? So there's this list and then there's that list. So what's happening with that list? Is
We're
that
going
what
to
you're
ask the
talking about?
supervisors to engage the Monroe County Planning Committee to assist us. Because Alex
In making the
says,
second list.
Yeah.
Right, okay, got it.
Environmentally sensitive.
Okay, I.
Alex
Now, caught up.
says that
Thank you.
we're above our pay grade if we start doing it with that.
Right.
It's a little more complicated because it's not just engage them. We could try to engage them to that effect, this. Or we could engage them as we already agreed to help us with the official map update, which was sort of.
What this is. Well, if we're going,
Because we already made that recommendation on the official map. The other question is this a separate request for technical assistance, completely separate from the official map? Those are two totally different things. Can they just take those and make a table? Which might be pretty straightforward for them since they have complex GIS capabilities. But the question is, okay, so you're gonna get a list of all the environmentally sensitive areas. And it might be easier to just make a recommendation.
would that be a step, do you have any contacts with them? I mean, you do.
It has to come from the supervisors. I can't reach out on behalf of the supervisors.
But we already have a pending.
We have, but it's for something similar.
Ask them if that would include that.
Yeah, that might be,
That's just asking for a clarification of something that the supervisors have already approved.
Yeah.
And I don't think the supervisors will have any problem with that.
right.
Is this something you wanna think through?
Yeah. I think we need to think it through, not make a formal motion, to be honest. I think I can call the planning commission, let them know the council has an interest in this. Is that relative to the official map? Can that be incorporated into the official map? If they say no. then it's a separate request to say, yes, that can definitely be incorporated into the official map discussion, and I think it might be better to kill two birds with one stone. This is my personal opinion, that they might wanna have that conversation simultaneously if they can, so I think. Before you formalize this, let me reach out to them informally. I'll talk to Julia and, you know. And let her know what you guys are discussing, and I'll reach out to the planning commission and see what they can advise us on. I think that's probably the best way to approach
Okay,
this.
I don't know what Robert's rule of order says about rescinding.
I think that's an action item.
Yeah, I think it probably is an action item, and it would just be, I think James made the motion, James would then withdraw the motion, and
I withdraw the motion.
it's a good motion, gotta be a conversation.
Okay,
I agree, though, this was a good topic to discuss, Mitch, and I appreciate you continuing to talk about it in this agenda item.
and it doesn't mean that we are not gonna pursue the rest of the things that you said. The one thing I think is really important, and Michael and I discussed this, is getting community involvement.
Right.
We have to do something to try to get some folks interested in this.
We have to get awareness.
Yeah. Does the board of supervisors, or does the township ever send out any questionnaires to people or any kind of request for information from them?
The township said, so all of you have been added to the newsletter, as you recall, that was an action item, so everyone, you should be getting newsletters now. Okay, you're getting newsletters, so in that format, I don't know if they're sending questionnaires out. I do know that I put something together for the board several months ago, a survey, I think it was 25 or 30 questions that relate to a number of things, and so those conversations have occurred in the township, and at this point, I think
What conversations?
about questionnaires.
Oh,
I actually drafted up
surveys.
a survey, a draft survey that I had some very brief conversations with the township about, and so. Something could be sent out, and so I don't believe anything. I don't know if anything has been sent out.
Do you know if the email address lists that are referenced in the codes exist?
The email list that's
And I'll
referenced.
tell you why now I asked
I'm
that
trying to
question.
understand what you're referencing.
You asked us to go into the codes and start trying to understand it and search, which I did. And I probably spent an hour, 2 hours doing that. One of the things I came across, and I can't remember what it was, is that there are supposed to be email lists for the residents, for businesses, and there was one other group, recreation,
In the ordinances?
yes.
Huh,
And I didn't manufacture it, I mean, I read it someplace there, but I couldn't tell you where I read it, cause I was bouncing around from place to place. If we search, use the search function, that's what I was doing, probably try to find them again, but since you're not saying, oh yeah, those exist, my guess is they may not exist. But that would be an ideal way to send out, if we ever did anything on the comprehensive plan, that would be the way to send out a survey to all the residents.
Well, it could even be a way to try to get participation in environmental things too.
Well, I would send this out, to all residents. If you want to find out what's wrong in the township, say, and one of the other things that we have an opportunity to have a committee for.
right.
Is this is item 3. Promote a community environmental program.
Oh, you gotta
This
have-
fits into that the best.
Before you talk about the environmental program, didn't you point out that that we put together environmental problems as a community in your community? Didn't you mention something about how you need to put a list together of what what this council thinks is an environment, because that's in the ordinance,
Well, number one
yeah.
says identify environmental problems and recommend plans. So
Right, identify the problems, and that, I think.
this is one way of identifying problems.
Right, and that is part of the ordinance for the EAC, and I think that, you know, it's important to focus on what's written in the ordinance, and I think that was a comment from a member of the public at the last minute meeting, so perhaps that subcommittee could be convened to put a list of what you perceive to be environmental, or what I perceive to be environmental problems might be a lot different from what you perceive, maybe you think, you know.
But you're also interpreting that as different from environmentally sensitive areas, right?
Are they not two separate action items for the council?
I think they can be, and they're certainly separate here.
Yeah, so if they're separate in the ordinance, then I would suggest that they're two separate subcommittees, like a subcommittee for environmental problems, a subcommittee. You know, I would recommend structure everything based on the ordinance.
Well, it could be the same committee to take both of the tasks.
Yeah, I believe the supervisors would like us to focus on what's in the ordinance, you know, that we're advisory,
Well,
you know, we're
but
advisory. focus on these
Could
things.
this subcommittee deal with both of those subjects? They're related.
Yeah, it could, it's just, you know, it may be asking a lot of the same two folks, it might be nice to have.
I would actually group number one, which says identify environmental problems, and number three, which says promote a community environmental
Yeah.
program together.
I would agree, because first you have to identify what you perceive to be the problem. You gotta look at what the environmental program is such a vague. I'm still honestly not sure what that means. But it is one of the things that you are, and I'm here to help you try to do, and that could, I think you need to identify what you perceive to be the priority issues in your municipality first, so at least you can all come to a consensus on. You know, do you all agree that the San Luis Creek's impairment is a priority, you know, I think we've already agreed that clean water is a problem, so maybe the East Stroudsburg wastewater plants, quality of the effluent and the impact on all the township parks downstream. You know, maybe really badly blighted properties. I'm sure everyone here can come up with 5 things that they think are environmental and problems in Smithfield Township, and if we can get all 7 members, that's 35, and then me, I can, you know, I would rather welcome from you though, to be honest, I don't think I should be participating in the list, but you should have that's 35 problems. And maybe they can be condensed down to 10, those then be a priority, and you should, you know, maybe everyone can think about 5 things that they really
Well,
think are
plus
problems.
if we reach out to members of the community,
Mhm.
we're gonna find out, like the one comment that came up about, what was it? Wetlands, filling in wetlands,
What, right, that was a good comment.
that's an environmental problem,
It is,
to me.
yeah, I would agree.
Um,
Do you all wanna think about 5 environmental problems and send them to me, and I can compile a list and then you can talk about it at the next meeting? That way we're making slow but sure progress towards the ordinance.
I would appoint
You want a subcommittee?
a subcommittee.
Can
And
I
have one
first,
person, I mean, you probably have your plate pretty full, I would guess.
Yeah, I'm here to help though.
he's here, he
I think
comes.
James just volunteered.
No, I didn't volunteer for anything. I'm thinking that, you know, we need to understand what environmentally, what environmental problem is. We need to identify that.
That would be the first objective of the sub.
Right, so we have to agree, we have to have some kind of. We have to have some form of understanding what an environmental problem is. I mean, you know.
A measuring
because-
stick.
A measure,
Yeah.
exactly. A measure, we need to have some place where it would say, yes, this is it. And because we are not,
And see.
we don't have the credentials to identify that. Oh, okay, we're not, we have to find a way of identifying those problems. And then use it, and then going in, now that we know what the problem is.
Right.
And then finding a solution. Because. Just saying that, you know, it's an environmental problem
of.
Yeah,
environmental
okay.
problems.
you gotta, define it.
But that's
Okay, we need we probably need EPA guidelines of some kind.
Well, the EPA delegates to the DEP, so the EPA doesn't
Well,
necessarily,
the
they exist
DEP.
here in this region,
Mm-hmm.
but they delegate a lot of their. The clean air and clean water to the EPA DEP. And just want to point that out, I hear that a lot,
Water we already know, because it's already become a major issue.
so, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I think, I agree, the council agreed right in the very beginning that water quality was one of the priorities, and I think anything that is reducing water quality from where it should be is probably, in my opinion, an environmental problem, because that influences everyone here's lives, because we all drink from locally sourced water.
Any ideas from the crowd?
So we can find a way of. Because I'm looking at this, to identify problems, trash,
well, that would be
Yeah.
one of my questions,
and how,
the
and who
code
would, and who
defines.
would, yeah, and who would enforce it?
So,
The code defines junk. And junk on property is prohibited. But you need some way to have it identified and dealt with.
Report.
And I would think that what is it, the code officer, that's not the right name.
code enforcement, that's the right name,
Is that the right name?
code enforcement officer.
It'd be brought to their attention and there's specific,
Because that's a big.
recommendations as to what has to be done to clean up junk. Now, does that fall into the definition of an environmental problem? I would say yes, but it's not as important as water.
Well, we have a suggestion on the floor, and that is from Alex, and he suggests that we all come up with a list of 5, say, list of 5.
It's up to you,
What we consider as problems
in your community.
in our
Yeah, we're not
areas.
talking about, climate, but try to keep it, remember, problems that are solvable, I'm not saying that climate change isn't solvable, but, try to make it relative to Smithfield Township. Like the impairment of Sandwell Creek, for example.
Okay, can we take on that action item for next time? Everybody,
We can table for next.
Yeah, so table it and then come back to the next meeting with 5 of your own.
Right.
And then we can compile a list and then continue this conversation, because I think it's a good conversation that Dick has brought up, I think it's a really good conversation.
yeah. And so, what we can do too is, get the committee set up at that point.
But we didn't,
Does a subcommittee chair have to be a member of this committee, this group?
No,
If any of you can think of anybody that's really interested in environmental things that would like to be an ad hoc member of the group and chair one of these committees, it'd be wonderful.
And we're looking for Smithfield residents.
Yes,
Oh.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I think I may know one or two people.
Oh, great.
I'll have to ask them, obviously.
I think it would be good if we could, there aren't that many of us. And I also think outreach to other citizens of the community is important too. And we kind of dropped that open about the survey. But I think we have to figure out a way or a strategy for getting more community involvement in these issues. And you have any ideas?
I've always thought that, I know getting a good email list is a problem, because the people that are interested are the ones that will call Julia and ask to be put on the list, but you're probably missing a huge amount of people, and I don't know. I always thought if there were a line on the property tax bills where you would fill out your email address, or whenever a property changed hands, it was required that email address be on the tax bill. somewhere so that you get.
They won't do that.
Start getting a complete, I mean,
That's a privacy thing. They would-
It would be optional.
yeah, it could be optional. Yeah, opt in, opt out, like everybody does, but
In today's technologically sound environment, I would think that that would be a slam dunk. You put your email address. when you pay your-
Emails today change like phone numbers.
Pardon?
Emails today change like phone numbers.
It's a good way to put it.
Cause
Mhm.
let me tell you, I got thousands upon thousands of emails
it's a start. I mean, you have to do something.
You do a mailer.
and a quarter.
Well, that's what they were talking about that. And,
Oh, no.
But then you
No,
have
it's not expensive at all.
well, you were on the famous out.
Yeah, bulk
Yeah,
email.
I'd like to use the
That's,
emails.
I don't know what kind of,
The codes.
what kind of,
Would you see if there is?
what kind of pricing that I don't know what kind of pricing the township would get, but it's 16 to 18.5 cents a piece. And
Well, that's for an envelope though, isn't it?
no, that's just for
A piece,
That's just for.
a piece. It could be an
It's
envelope.
folded.
postcard.
It could be an envelope,
Mhm.
okay? It could be bulk mail, it could be an envelope filled with something.
Yeah.
Or it could be a postcard,
Mhm.
but, envelopes,
Not envelopes, no.
okay, postcards, somebody will go, throw it out, okay? The most effective way to reach somebody today is through social media.
Okay, right.
But is there does the township currently have a community outreach office? Or is there someone who takes care of community outreach in the township?
Does the township have a, social media?
Yes, the township has an active social media presence, and the township has an email mailing list for their e-newsletter. It's not a large percentage of the population because it's voluntary sign up. So we tried it, so after our previous conversation, I asked the township about emails and. People have an opportunity to write email when they sign in the front there, and that's currently how they're accumulating new emails.
What percent of the 6,000 or 7,000 residents?
That would be a question for Jacob, but since he, I believe, is the webmaster, so he'll. I don't know the number, it's not most of them, I would imagine.
10%.
That is a question I don't know the answer to, but there is. A social media presence, and I would definitely make sure you all follow our Facebook page, because like, for example, the Creek renaming survey is up now, and so I hope everyone here will take an opportunity to fill that out. So that's one questionnaire that we actually partnered with the Monroe County Planning